It was in August of 1998. I was visiting a friend in Kelowna, about 300 kilometers from here, and her son walked through the room. And he was about 22, and I said, "Stu, you've lost weight." And he said, "Well, I've just walked 800 kilometers across." I opened it up, and now 45 minutes later, put it down. I said, "Okay, that's what I'm doing for my 50th birthday. Done." This was the only English language guide on the Camino by the Confraternity of St. James, the only English guide. And there is the woman in a wheelchair, facing backwards. She's facing me with this beatific smile on her face. And her husband is pulling her in the wheelchair.
Okay. Hello, Pilgrims. This is Efrain Mendoza from the Way to Your Way podcast. Welcome to another episode. And today we have with us Mary Virtue. She has been walking and also biking the Camino around 11 to 12 times. And we're going to be talking about also that she has been part of the Canadian Company of Pilgrim Committee. And also, she has been, I understand that you have been also hospitalera. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So, welcome, Mary. How are you doing today?
I'm doing just fine. Thank you very much.
Okay.
It's a lovely day here.
Yeah, oh, it's nice. And what part of Canada are you?
We're from Victoria,
Okay.
British Columbia, so that's as far west as you can go in Canada.
Okay, so you were very close to the meeting when we were there and the gathering.
Yes, I was an hour and a half ferry ride away.
Okay, that's nice. So, Mary and I, we just met on the recent gathering that was planned by the American Pilgrims on the Camino and the Canadian Company of Pilgrims. And we have a very good time there with a lot of pilgrims all around Canada, Spain, and other countries as well. And Canada, US, and in other countries as well. And we were about 400 people there.
Yeah.
So, were you part of the planning for that event?
No, not at all. No,
Okay.
not at all. No. I made suggestions earlier on for speakers, guest speakers that they might enjoy.
Okay.
So some of them I heard speak, which was very nice.
Okay. And talking about the Camino, when was the first time that you find out about the Camino de Santiago?
It was in August of 1998.
Okay.
And I was visiting a friend in Kelowna, about 300 kilometers from here, and her son walked through the room, and he was about 22, and I said, "Oh, Stu, you've lost weight." And he said, "Well, I've just walked 800 kilometers across Spain." I said, "Oh, well, tell me more about it." I've known this child since he was born. And he disappeared into his room. He came back with a guidebook like this, but it had a red cover.
Okay.
1998, and he just gave it to me. And I opened it up, and now 45 minutes later, put it down. I said, "Okay, that's what I'm doing for my 50th birthday. Done." It was like that.
Wow.
It was like that. So, and I knew at that time that I couldn't be away from home for 5 weeks. Walk for 4 weeks, get there, get back, allow a rest day kind of thing. Because at home, I would be leaving an 8-year-old, a 10-year-old, and a 15-year-old.
Okay.
My daughter was in university. So there's no way on earth that I could leave for that length of time. So I decided, okay, well, I cycle to work all the time. I'll just cycle across Spain. And pretty soon, my girlfriend said to me, "Can I come too?"
Oh.
And I said, "Sure, you can come. You're older than I am. I don't want any young chicks on this trip. Let's go." So we just hit the roads around here. 6 weeks. I used to ride to work all the time. So 7 kilometers there, 7 kilometers back. But of course, we would be riding longer. So on the weekends, she and I would go on 60 to 100 kilometer rides with our bikes. And so it was it was fabulous.
Okay.
Really was quite an experience.
And did you take your own bike over there
Yeah.
or you rented?
Yeah, no, we shipped our bikes. And I had looked at a map that showed me the steepness from Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port up, and I thought, I don't want the first day to be a failure. So let's start in Roncesvalles.
Okay.
Right? And so we had the bikes shipped to Pamplona, and then from Pamplona, we took a taxi. We shared it with a few other people that we found that had been at the airport, come with us.
Okay.
So we got a taxi to Roncesvalles. And then we had to take them out of the box and, put the front wheel on and all that kind of stuff. And meanwhile, all these men from Brazil, because Paulo Coelho had just, recently written his book on the Camino.
Okay.
So lots and lots of Brazilians coming. So they just sat quietly and watched us and kind of smiled and a bit of a snigger, but they were quite admiring when they saw us the next morning, actually on our way.
So, and how was it when you started biking? Where what you were expecting, or was something different?
We had decided before we went, because I had done all the reading I could about the Camino. There wasn't much.
Yeah.
Okay, this was the only English language guide on the Camino by the Confraternity of St. James, the only English guide. And the only English book I could find was Laurie Dennett's book, A Hug for the Apostle.
Okay.
That's the only thing in English that was available at that time. So I took a lot of Laurie Dennett's kind of the peaceful, the quiet, that kind of thing. And I said to my friend, if we're going to ride this, we are not cycling on the Camino. So we got big Michelin maps and found the little roads that are beside the Camino. So often we would be on a D road, they're the country roads, that had a shoulder of almost 2 meters, which is perfect. And then there would be a grassy area, and then there'd be pilgrims walking along. This was especially true on the Meseta. Walking along, and then one Camino, and then we would see them up ahead, crossing the road and going into a wooded area. Okay. And we were slogging in the hot sun. But yeah, so we and if we did find ourselves on the path, we got off our bikes to walk along the path until we could get on our bikes again and ride off. It's just not fair to pilgrims to have, to be enjoying nature and that kind of thing and hear on your left or ding, ding, ding. Well, it'd be nice if the cyclist now meant ding, ding, ding. But anyway, so, and there weren't many cyclists. We met them because we were kind of going at similar paces. So every 3 or 4 days, we would see another couple that we had met before.
Okay.
But I knew on day 3 and we spent 15 days cycling. I knew on day 3, I have to come back and walk because I'm missing too much. I'm missing things that I see, the community that the walking pilgrims have. So it was a while before I could come back because, as I say, I left an 8-year-old, a 10-year-old, 15-year-old.
Yeah, I know.
You can't be away for 5 or 6 weeks when they're that old. Well, I couldn't get that much time off work either.
Yeah.
Bit of an issue. So anyway.
Yeah, so that's actually what you just mentioned is a nice part about walking, that you go slowly because it's different totally path that going by car or going by a bike. That way you have more time to appreciate everything that you have around you.
Yeah. I mean, the benefit with a bike was that you're cycling along and there'll be a little sign that says Museo de whatever, 3 kilometers over here. Right. You turn right and you go.
Yeah.
As a walking pilgrim, you go Museo 3 kilometers there, you go, whatever, you stay on course. So we got to see some things that pilgrims wouldn't see because it wouldn't take us very long to go off for 3 or 4 kilometers. And again, we would have a little siesta by the river. We put our mats on the ground and just lie in the grass or just have a quiet time in the afternoon. Then we would go on to an albergue. We never showed up at albergues before 5 o'clock because our feeling was the walking pilgrims must get a bed first. We, for instance, if an albergue was full, then someone could say, well, there's another one 5 kilometers down the road. We could do that 5 kilometers on a bicycle. A walking pilgrim, once they get to their destination, you're not going to go another 5 kilometers.
Yeah.
In those days, there weren't the taxis, there weren't the, all that stuff. It was very different. It was very different.
Yeah, because the Camino is starting to be getting with a lot of pilgrims probably at the end of 1990 something. So because at the beginning were very few pilgrims.
Well, the year before, like in 1998, there were about 50,000 pilgrims. I was there in a whole year, so there were about 150,000, and they weren't ready. There were tents set up on the hill in Osabrero for pilgrims. We stayed at the Boade del Camino, just east of Fromista, and these 2 young men. There was a building. They were hammering the bunk beds together, screwing the screws, taking the plastic off the mattresses, putting them on the beds. And we said, can we stay? And they were kind of startled that, there were already people. And we had to go one at a time into the bathroom. I think there were about 6 of us, one at a time into the bathroom because there were no doors on the toilets and there were no walls on the showers. Just because it hadn't been done yet. And there was no hot water.
Yeah. And when was the last Camino that you walked?
The last time was the Camino, and I think the Camino Inglés.
Okay.
In 2023.
So 2 years ago.
Yeah, last year, my husband, or earlier this year in January, my husband and I were in Sevilla for a couple of months. So we would walk to Italica. I'm on the Camino. I don't count that. And we were in Cordoba, so we would walk a bit of the Camino in Cordoba. Those don't count. Those are just kind of admiring the Camino. But
those are like a souvenirs for the Camino.
More like a souvenir, yes. So I've decided I need to go back this year. Don't know when, don't know where. I'm kind of a winter pilgrim. I prefer November, December to walk.
Okay.
I walked.
So for you, it's not cold.
No, well, it's not cold. It's not cold. No, not at all. And in fact, there are a lot of times when I'll just have a merino wool type up top, just like this. Nothing more, no jacket, no nothing. January the same. Well, January was walking in the south, so of course it got warm. But I remember someone saying to me, "Oh my goodness, you walk in the winter. Oh, your pack must be so heavy. You have so many clothes to carry." I said, "Well, actually, you don't because you're wearing all of them."
Have you walked the winter Camino?
That's another one I did in 2023. I did 2 that year.
Okay.
I did, well, in fact, I walked from Sagun to Mortinos through Sagun to Ponferrada. And so I don't count that Camino Frances. That's just being along the Camino Frances again, right? And then I walked the Camino Invierno.
Okay.
Yeah, with a friend.
Okay. And how was that experience walking the Camino?
The Invierno?
Yes.
I know that some people love it.
Okay.
I didn't enjoy it. The scenery is lovely. There are no services between breakfast and when you arrive to where you're going to sleep. Many days, the only place to sit down would be a rock.
Okay.
And I think what appeals to some people is that desolateness, that real peaceful, nothing else around. But I like to eat, and when I couldn't find food, kind of, it was hard. So that was it. Just there were no services, and it seemed to me, and it's probably a blasphemy. It seemed to me like a manufactured Camino.
Okay.
Nobody really knew what we were doing. We saw one couple we saw kind of regularly, a little Spanish couple about my age. And then we saw a Spanish father walking with his two daughters. They both worked in England, had lived and worked in England for about 10, 15 years. So they're fluent English, and he didn't speak a word of English, but the Camino was his passion. And he wanted his daughters to walk this one with him. And I think that would be good. It would be a lovely Camino, I think, to walk with a member of your family that you really, there were no other distractions. There were no other people to distract at all. And there, I think there were 2 albergues. Otherwise, you're in bed and breakfast and hotels. So you don't get that community spirit either. So in that way, it was quite interesting. I'm glad I did it, but it's not one I would repeat again. Whereas the Santa Bres route, I'd go tomorrow, and next year and next year. I just loved it.
Okay.
It was, and it again is not well populated for pilgrims, but certainly the services are there. People know in the neighborhoods, they know what you're doing, and it's gobsmackingly gorgeous scenery. So you got it all. As far as I was concerned, you got it all.
Okay, that's nice. And then, do you remember how many kilometers did you walk on the winter Camino or the Invierno Camino?
I was walking with a friend of mine who has Parkinson's. So we were aiming at no more than 20 kilometers a day.
Okay.
For that reason. So some days, because of distances between hotels or stops, I remember one day was only 14. And then there was 23, 25. We did not venture over 25. That was the limit.
Okay.
When you have Parkinson's, you don't want to push it that much.
Yeah.
Or you
Yeah.
can't.
Correct.
Right. Let's put it. You can't. So.
Yeah. Yeah. And do you remember how many days were you walking the Camino?
I'd have to go and look at my little credential. I think it was about 15 days.
15 days.
Must have been longer than that. I think of it. Yeah. Was. Yeah. But
that means it's a little more than 300 kilometers in total, about that.
Yes. Yeah. And of course, I'd walked for a week before that on the front surface just to get there. And so, yeah.
Okay. So being walked those more almost 12 Caminos that you have walked, and probably you have walked already more than, I don't know, 5,000 kilometers when you add all those together.
Yeah. And so many boots I've gone through.
Yeah. So, and then I imagine that you have had blister and all that because that's part of the experience of the Camino as well, correct?
I've had one blister.
Only one blister?
Yeah. Yeah. I had one blister walking. I'd walked from Cadiz in the south of Spain.
Okay.
To Sevilla and then on to Monasterio. And my daughter met me at that point. And we walked further, or I guess it was there. I said, I've got this little blister and on my little toe. And the reason was my boots were old. Like they were over a year old. They'd had lots and lots of kilometers under them.
Okay.
And there was a thread inside my boot that was rubbing.
Oh.
So we went to a pharmacist. He fixed this all up, and I found Compeed. The other use for Compeed is you take it and you put it inside your boot where the rough part is, and it makes it nice and smooth, so you're not getting any irritation anymore. So yeah, but just one blister. That's it.
Wow, that's a super experience.
Yeah.
But so you put your socks, everything very well that will prevent all those blisters during all that time. I have got 3 times. I have got already like a 3 blisters in 3 times. So it's one per time.
So you can count them up. There's number one.
But with a compete, like you say, it's very, very good. So that's like a miracle. You don't
Yeah.
feel anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, very, very good. And how do you get involved with a Canadian company of pilgrims?
Well, the friend that I cycled with in 1999 had joined. I'd never heard of it. She had joined and had the original credential, which was a kind of a piece of green paper like that.
Okay.
And that was it. It was it wasn't even laminated, and it was a couple steps together, and it was scored with pencil across here so you could get your stamps. But we did get a credential in Roncesvalles when we arrived there, which was the one we tended to use. But so I came back to Canada with a big part of my brain going, I have to get back, I have to get back, I have to get back. So in January 2005, an announcement came out from the American company of Pilgrims. There was going to be a hospitalero training in Toronto with Americans and Canadians. So I immediately signed up, knowing I would be coming from the farthest away. Every province in Canada, Alaska, Florida, Texas, California, people from all over, 40 of us from all different places came there. And that's basically when I heard about the Canadian Company of Pilgrims, because they were the joint presenters.
Okay.
And then so I joined, obviously, $10. I can afford $10. And then the next year, I got a call out of the blue from someone saying, could you give us a presentation on being hospitalera? I said, sure. Because it was another way, because I took the training in 2005 and I served in 2005 in Gragnon. So this was next year. And from there, it was a case of, here's the Victoria chapter, and the woman who had asked me to do this presentation was organizing a chapter gathering every spring, 2 or 3 hours long. I went along to one of them and I said, why don't you make it a day long? She said, oh, I don't think anyone would come. I said, have it on a Saturday, people will come. Oh, I don't think anyone will come. 150 people came. The next year, 225 people came. So we've had between 200 and 250 or 60 people every single year since then, with breakout groups. So when we have a gathering, from 8:30 in the morning till 4 in the afternoon. Great.
Wow. And what would you say that the Camino have made that big interest on people going there? Because at that time we were talking about a lot of people. You were saying 200 something people that every time just to want to be hospitalero training.
No. These are people that wanted to learn more about the Camino.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
No, and then it was actually in 2007 that Tom Friesen and I started doing the hospitalera training in Canada.
Okay.
So he flew from Ontario. We trained 22 people here. And then I flew to Ontario. We trained another 20 people in London, Ontario. And every year we would do 2 training sessions, one out west and one out east, either in Toronto or London. And then we decided to spread the load a few years ago. It's been, we started this in 2007. So now we're spreading the load and training trainers and spreading it out.
Okay. But what I mean, so what would you say that it has been that interest in the Camino for so many people around the world? That because there are too many also association of pilgrims around the world. It's not just Canada and the US, Spain.
Correct.
It's a lot of countries have association of pilgrims. What would you say is that?
Well, I don't know. It piques people's interest. Some people just want to know about it, and other people, I'd like to do it, but oh, I don't think I can. And certainly, the I've talked to a number of people who have gone on an assisted tour. Where they book your hotel and they carry your pack, and they've been on those things for a 2-week period, and they've returned and said, I don't know why I did that. I could have done that by myself. And other people, if they're 75 to 85 years old, then they did need that. They did need someone to take their pack, that kind of thing. So they did need that help. But why? I mean, I've been to a number of international conferences in Krakow, in Valencia, in Santiago, and I know what you mean. All these different associations, and meeting the gentleman from Japan who was so enthusiastic. He walked the Camino and then went back and wrote the guidebook in Japanese so that other Japanese people could come. Because you need some sort of guidebook. You need one person to be the person who goes before you.
Yeah.
And I've often thought of this young man, my friend's son. I said, Stuart, it's like for me, it's like you've thrown the rock into the stream and it's rippled out. Because my daughter in 2000, I think she was thinking, I think my mom did something really interesting in Spain last year. People didn't know about the Camino in Canada at that stage. So she walked the Camino in 2000. There were 54,000 people on the Camino the whole year, 54,000.
Yeah.
And our son walked 2 years later. The numbers had climbed. It was 58,000 people.
Yeah.
It wasn't until 2010, after the Way, the movie was produced, that it really shot up. It shot up like a holy year. Because if you look at the other statistics, every holy year it shoots up and then the statistics drop down again. It went up in 2010 and it just kept up and kept up and kept up.
Yeah.
So are they interested because now there are so many books and movies? Maybe so. I mean, there's so many books now. I can't believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have been knowing several writers, and
Yes.
I've been interviewed a few of them,
Yes.
and it is amazing. So how that's been growing the interest on the Camino.
Yes. Yes. And some of them are really well written, and some of them are okay, but they're still interesting because when you read a book by someone who's walked the Camino, their heart is in the book.
Yes.
And that's what catches people.
Yeah. Well, this is actually the intention of this podcast, that we are talking with so many people, always related to the Camino, for them to express their opinions, like we're doing today here with you. And then at some point, we're going to have so many episodes that it's going to be a good source for people that wanted to know more about the Camino.
Excellent. Yeah. Can I share a little something about my cycling trip?
Yeah.
Okay. So when you're cycling, you're not cycling side by side. So you're not having a conversation back and forth, right?
Okay.
So one day, my friend and I were, we could see in the distance, we were just doing, it was a gradual uphill. It was one of those things, well, we'll just throw it down in granny gear and we'll just go at it. But it wasn't a curvy, it was just, we could see well in the distance. And we could see two, like four people, two and two, up way up ahead of us. And I said, well, I'll pace it out and see if we should be passing them or not. Because you don't want to get right behind another cyclist and hug them, right? So we just cycled at our usual rate. And I said, yeah, we're going a bit, our pace is faster than theirs. We'll pass. So we got closer to the couple, the second couple, and it's an uphill. It's a granny gear kind of hill. And the woman was cycling, the man, her husband, was cycling beside her, and he had his hand in the small of her back, helping her, pushing her. And I thought, oh, that's just wonderful. Because it's hard to do. It's hard to cycle that close to someone. And he was obviously helping her, right? So then I cycled on, cycle. I've now reached the next couple. And there is the woman in a wheelchair, facing backwards. She's facing me with this beatific smile on her face. And her husband is pulling her in the wheelchair. I passed them and the tears were pouring down my face. The gift he was giving her, not necessarily on the uphill, but the downhill would have been treacherous. It's the downhill with that kind of a weight that's really, really difficult. You're going to burn through a couple sets of brakes on that one. Coming down from Osabrero, for instance. And I just thought, it's unbelievable. So that, I would say, that memory stays with me. Because on the Camino, I mean, there's not much you have to do every day, right? You have to get up, figure out where you're going to find food, figure out where you might be staying that night, and you're looking around to see who are you going to be able to help today. Okay. Not in a conscious way, perhaps, but it's going to happen. In your heart it's going to happen. But seeing this gift was unbelievable.
Yeah. It is amazing how all kind of people, and you have problem, no problem, they're still walking the Camino, or they are enjoying the Camino, and they are happy, no matter what problems they may have in their daily life, but they are enjoying those moments like if something amazing that they are doing.
Yes, yeah. I stopped when I was walking, I stopped at a fountain to talk to someone I saw her sitting on the fountain, young woman. I just sat down and we were chatting away, and she said, well, I think it's time for me to go again. So she picked up her crutches and started walking.
Yes.
On one leg. And I just I hadn't even noticed, because on the Camino, you're looking at people's faces. That's the joy, and that's what you're noticing. So I hadn't noticed these crutches just beside her as she's sitting by the fountain. But just thinking, oh my heavens, I have nothing to complain about in my life at all.
Yeah. So last year when we were walking the Frances, and we did just the shore part of the Frances, but it was in a town that we found with a lady that she lost one of her legs, at the bottom part of the leg, and she was with a prosthesis. And I remember that someone asked her, "What happened to your leg?" And she said, "Well, when I was a child, I lost that because the train went over my leg." And with all that, with her prosthesis, she was walking like it was something that nothing happened to her. So she had a lot of energy, all that. So and she walked with a smile as well. So if people don't see that the emotional, we should be doing all our life surrounded about that. So we will have a very nice world.
I think too, it's this kind of experience. It happens almost daily on the Camino if you have your eyes open. And I think carrying your own pack, it slows you down that little bit. From if you don't walk with a pack, you can walk at a faster pace. But once you're walking at a slower pace, you see things, you notice things, you have time for things.
Yeah.
And certainly staying in albergues, you see and hear and smell things that you wouldn't if you stayed in a hostel or a hotel. You have that experience, or I have, of sort of just about to get into my bunk and looking over, and 7 inches away, there's another bunk, and there's a man I haven't been formally introduced to. Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Well, Mary, we are going to the end of the podcast today. So, what advice would you tell to those pilgrims or future pilgrims that have not taken a decision to go yet to the Camino, but they wanted to do? What would you advise to them?
Okay. I would say mentally, do it. Physically, find a chapter, find someone who has gone before and go out walking with them and talking with them and being with them and hearing their story. Because, as you know, every pilgrim loves to talk about the Camino once they've been. And that's what I would do. But it's the mental, I'm going to do this. And the mental, I can do this. If someone with one leg can do it, if me at 76 can do it, anybody can do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I knew one story about a lady of almost 90 years old that she walked the Camino.
Yeah.
And it was an owner from a hotel that she told me that story. That she was in Oseira. I don't know if you have been in Oseira area. There is a monastery there.
Oh yeah, I've been there.
Okay, so she has, she's the owner of a small hotel on the one side of the monastery, and she said that once was a lady, was like a 90 years old, kind of 90 years old lady with her grandson, and that at was a moment that she doesn't feel very good, and she stayed in the hotel and told her grandson, you can go to the Camino, continue walking. I'm going to stay here for a little bit. So, but she recovers like in few hours. And then the owner from the hotel, start walking with her and just a little bit. But then she let her go by herself. And then at a later time, she was worried about it. Well, I let that lady just go by herself if something happened to her on this Camino. That part is not as populated with other Caminos that have more people.
Exactly, yeah.
And she just was with that day and the next day as well. But then the following day, she saw her dancing on Finisterre on a fair. And she said, oh, now I feel fine.
Now I'm okay.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Mary, for all the information that you provide to pilgrims today. And thank you, pilgrims, for watching our episode today. And please keep adding your comments to the comment sections. That way we know what other episodes do you like to see in the future. Thank you, and buen camino.
Buen camino.